Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Chesa Sneak Peek. Today we are at Battlefield Park and I am here with Frederick Douglass. Now the history of Chesapeake and the Battle of Great Bridge was a great inspiration to this gentleman right here. So can you please tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, good morning, and good morning, fellow citizens. I'm very happy to be invited here to the modern era to talk about the Chesapeake and how the Battle of Great Bridge inspired me coming out of slavery, born in 1818 on Maryland's eastern shore in Talbot County near St. Michael's. And I lived there until I was around 8 years old and then moved by my master to Baltimore and eventually escaped slavery and ended up in New York and New Bedford, Massachusetts, and on to Rochester and back to Washington, D.C. And I became an abolitionist and fought for the abolition of slavery. I worked with Abraham Lincoln to ensure that slaves, black men, were able to fight on the side of the Union. And they did, and we saved the Union. Mr. Lincoln, our great president, saved our Union. And so all of these things that I lived in my lifetime from around 1818 until the last thing that I remember, around in 1895, certainly was inspired by the founding of our country and the beginning of slavery in this country of America. We're celebrating now, this year, 2019. You should be celebrating, commemorating, I would say, would be the better word, the landing of the first Africans in North America in 1619 in Port Comfort, which you now call, I believe, Fort Monroe. And so all those events, the slaves landing there, the Africans landing there and put into bondage, and then their subsequent freedom at Fort Monroe, arcs over this great city of Chesapeake, and it is a very historical city. The Battle of Great Bridge around December in 1775, there was a great battle here, and they were fighting for the liberation of this country to set its own course in history. And those people who took part in that battle and took part in the founding of our nation was a great inspiration to me to become an abolitionist. Some of those people right here from Chesapeake, Billy Flora, who was a blacksmith, a black man who owned his own business, gave up his anvil and his hammer and picked up a weapon to fight for this great country. And then it was founded in 1776. Also the great Minutemen of Massachusetts. All of these people fought for this country. The men who dug out this canal right here from the Dismal Swamp. I read about them in my time. And so this gave the way. The Dismal Swamp was part of the Underground Railroad in which slaves were coming up from the south and making their way through Chesapeake and on northward, teaming up with Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. No doubt some of the slaves that came right down through this Dismal Swamp and this canal ended up being led by Harriet Tubman and on to Rochester, at my home in Rochester, and then to Canada. I have no doubt of that. And so it's with great pleasure that I'm here today to talk to you and make that connection with the history of our country and encourage you to visit this great city of Chesapeake, to come down here on the shores, on the banks of this canal and see where the Battle of Great Bridge took place and enjoy the history and learn more about your heritage.
Thank you so much for your time, Frederick Douglass. We really appreciate all of that. And please continue tuning in for our Chesa Sneak Peeks for the remainder of February as we explore more about the history of Chesapeake and how it relates to Black History Month.
Thank you.
This week in Chesapeake, we have a lot happening. You can head out to Elizabeth River Park on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for Saturday Sundays with the Back Bay Amateur Astronomers. They will be observing the sun with their special telescopes. Also on Saturday at Deep Creek Lock Park is a guided bird walk from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. There are limited binoculars available, so if you have your own, make sure you bring them. That is a free event. The registration deadline for the 55 and Better A Formal Affair dance is Saturday, February 16th. Make sure you get your tickets before time runs out. And we have a couple of programs that are starting up this week. Tennis 101 for homeschoolers and Booty Yoga at Great Bridge Community Center. Be sure to sign up for those great instructional programs. And finally, if you are interested in signing up for youth soccer, the registration deadline is the 23rd. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week where we will be talking about the lasting legacy of Dr. Clarence B. Cuffey.